On this episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast, we continue Death Metal December with Slowly We Rot by Obituary. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal, and we like to talk about it. And today we're continuing Death Metal December with
Obituary.
Yes, Obituary.
Yeah.
A band known for a few short words, one paragraph summing up a person's life.
Right, exactly. That's what they do.
Keep it short because space is limited. No, their first album, Slowly We Rot, from 1989 is what we'll be talking about later on in the program after we spend probably 45 minutes talking about Skyrim or something.
Right. So something you don't care about.
Yeah.
These guys are very Tampa.
Yes, they're one of the I guess if you consider the waves small, part of the second wave of Florida death metal bands, really part of the first, I guess. But like, if you consider the first being like the first death metal bands ever,
right, that
they were influenced by, then perhaps they're a part of the second wave. But yeah, the sort of the Tampa sort of Florida death metal scene, they're very big part of that, a very important part of that, and therefore an important part of death metal in general, because that's indeed one of the birthplaces, I guess. It's sort of like when a kid is born in one place but then grows up in another place, where it's born in Florida but grew up in the Bay Area.
Well, Bay Area is more thrash.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got death in the Bay Area. There's a lot of death metal bands from that area as well. So death metal, it can be like that.
When I think of the Bay Area, I think more of Exodus. And
sure.
And Testament.
But I think it perhaps is a case of both of them being there. It's just that when people think of Florida, the death metal thing is exclusive.
Right.
But, I think one should not ignore all of the death metal bands from California as well. Oh, yeah. And that being a very big scene at the time. I don't know. I'm kind of talking out of my ass a little bit. I feel like it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm probably right. Yeah. So
I'm about 70% on this.
I might be entirely, off base thinking that there are a lot of death metal bands from California at that time period.
Yeah, Florida and Des Moines, I think.
Oddly enough, Iowa, I guess Ohio is more what I'm thinking of. But like there's a lot of like mid 2000s metalcore bands from that part of the Midwest, from the lower Midwest, I guess one could call it. There's a lot of like metalcore bands from that area.
From Cincinnati.
Probably.
Cleveland.
I think Cleveland, comes to mind. I think, and then Iowa. I think there's a few bands from Des Moines, I think.
Well, there's Slipknot.
Yeah, there's Slipknot.
Yeah.
But there was like, I think I want to say the band of Mice and Men is from like Des Moines or some shit. I don't know. I saw a thing that they were on tour and I thought they would have broken up by now.
Really?
I definitely, I did not think they would still be together, because also like their style of metalcore, and there's a bunch of different bands from that like originated from that era and were like massive sort of in the Warped Tour crowd of like these bands that very much were like extremely influenced by like the post-hardcore of the time and like emo and that sort of thing. So they had a very specific look, and they had a very, extremely mid 2000s Hot Topic, and had a very specific sort of sound. And there's still bits and pieces of that you can hear in modern metalcore. But to me, it's like so rooted in that time to where I can't even imagine what some of these bands that I haven't listened to in ages, where I'm like, what can they be doing now? Are they still doing the same thing, or has their sound developed and changed sort of with the times? Because I do not see that brand of metalcore being popular anymore.
Right.
Like I'm pretty out of touch with like what metalcore sounds like at all these days. Like the only metalcore band that I really keep up with is like Silent Planet, who, by the way, have a new album out.
And it's different.
It's a bit different, yeah. I really like it. It's still very, very heavy, but sort of leans more in a electronic angle. Sort of, I described it to you as being feeling similar, at least in a few ways, to like Code Orange,
right?
Which
Sonic terrorism,
yeah, definitely. A lot of violence, sonic violence, perhaps, but that made me think the other day. I was like, I should check to see if there's been anything new from Code Orange, and I haven't done that because it feels like it's been a while since they've put out anything new. I maybe remember hearing about them going on, like announcing a hiatus or something like that. But I don't know. I'm actually gonna check.
Look it up right now. Just
Code Orange. Let's see. They have a new, let me see, Zima? No. Yeah, they have a new album called The Above. When did that come out? 2023. So, September 29th.
So very recently.
Very recently. I had lost track of Code Orange. But
may have to give that a spin.
I'll have to listen to that as well. We're coming up on a run of themed months, so it's like these things that we can. I mean, we're already in the run of themed months.
Death metal, and then we do black metal next month.
Yeah, and then it's Female February.
Right.
So we're it's going to be a while.
There's a female member of Code Orange.
That's true. We could do Code Orange and prominent. One of the vocalists, and I believe she's lead guitarist. I think Reba Myers is or I don't know if I would say lead, but
a guitarist.
Yeah, I don't know if they have leads necessarily in Code Orange. It's not really that kind of music.
Right.
Just a guitarist. I think maybe she's the bassist. I can't remember. But anyway, I don't know. There's the point I was trying to make is I am kind of out of touch with what metalcore sounds like these days, but I think it's pretty genre wide, moved pretty heavily away from the Asking Alexandria era.
Right. I think that era of metalcore, it blew up and it was huge, and therefore just burned itself the fuck out.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was already on its way out before Warped Tour died, and I think the end of Warped Tour really sort of sealed the deal on the end of that genre. Maybe, I don't know. I might be over exaggerating the importance of that, but I think it was. I just think it was. I think the fan base in general sort of grew out of that.
They're all adults now,
and like the younger generations weren't picking it up,
right?
Because it wasn't. There weren't new up and coming bands making that type of music for the younger generation that was coming up.
Right. I feel like it wouldn't have aged very well.
Yeah.
Didn't. Yeah.
Well, and also like. There's some of I definitely remember like some of the lyrical content from like early Asking Alexandria albums and like early Bring Me the Horizon albums too.
Yeah.
Where like it's kind of it felt trashy in that sort of like, this feels a little misogynist kind of way. Some of them did.
Right.
Or like, wow, you are you people need therapy. Is what you need.
You need to go in and talk about your mother to someone on a couch, or just like hey, no breakup is this intense, or that sort of thing, I guess. But
to the degree where like, I don't know. I can't. I'm having trouble articulating what I'm trying to get at. But
I hear you.
There was a sort of a cringy kind of element where so much of it focused on like on relationship drama. Right. And when you're making music that is, that intense and can be that heavy, you maybe the lyrical content maybe wants to match the intensity of the music, and then you end up in some uncomfortable areas. Right. And it's like, all right, fucking chill, relax.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Makes me think of Panic Surfer.
I'm not aware of what Panic Surfer is.
He's just a dude who makes like death metal TikTok videos.
Okay.
And he made one which I really, really enjoy. I think I showed it to you at one point. It was really, it was very good, intense music. And the lyrics are about how, what a great day he'd had. He had apples and peanut butter.
It's great.
He played Fortnite with the boys. Nice. He took a nap for a bit.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. What you been up to anything in the last week?
I've kind of gotten into a bit of a rut. I mean, I finally did go Christmas shopping.
Okay.
My ex-girlfriend, she says, have you bought, gifts for the kids? I said, well, no, I'll get around to it. Mm-hmm. She's like, cool. Christmas is this weekend. I'll meet you at Target. I don't know how to buy gifts. I'm bad at it.
I feel you there. I'm fucking shitty at getting gifts for people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I always, at the very least, I always like to get my nephews something, right? Because they're kids, so it's like it can be easier to know because they're not getting themselves stuff.
No, and they still have some magic left in them.
Sure,
they haven't been jaded and destroyed by life yet, so it's still fun to receive gifts at Christmas.
Every year I'm like, I'm just gonna really splurge and get everybody something, but I'm shit at communication, which is an important part of getting gifts for people is knowing what people want.
I get gifts I got gifts for my granddaughters.
Yeah,
I did, and hopefully I'll be able to get them to them.
They're little children, so that's easy enough. Mm-hmm. Kids are, I mean, because at least for my family where we only have, only one of my sisters has kids. Right. So all I need to do is just ask my sister, like, hey, what do the boys not have? Mm-hmm. And instead of having to like circuitously go around the entire family to figure out what everybody wants and get something for everybody.
Right. Well, I had to have one of my children actually break into the other child's room. I need to know because do they have this and this? Look on their shelves. There could be shelves by the door. Look up there. If it's not there, then I'm going to buy these.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why we stopped doing it. We used to do a thing in my family where we would like draw names out of a hat at Thanksgiving. Cool. And if you got a name, it was you get a gift for that person. And that was really nice for me because then I would be like, hey, you person, what can I get you? Like there was clear and simple rules and boundaries, which, I'm like, I guess I'm all about.
It's funny because as you were telling me the story in my mind, I imagine that, everybody, there's names in the hat and everybody draws out a piece of paper and this one Thanksgiving, you open yours up and it's a black spot. Why is it a black spot?
Why is it a black spot?
And everybody's looking at you like,
it's time.
It's your turn, kid.
It's your turn. We're throwing you into the pit for sacrifice to Ublugdu. Or something like that.
Your family was secretly this whole time Lovecraft cultists.
It's weird. I just found out my family owns a mansion on the coast of Maine. We're going to stay there, and they said don't go in the basement. and don't look for caves along the shore. I don't know why they would be so like the caretakers would be so specific about places where it's our mansion.
Right.
Like, I should be able to go and look where I want.
Free to roam about the grounds.
Exactly. Telling us that the people in the local, they called it a village, which is weird. I mean, I know Maine is a little old fashioned.
Sure.
But I feel like most people would still call them towns.
Right.
It's 2023 in America.
Yeah. Why is it a village?
It's not a village. They called it in fact, it wasn't village. They called it a hamlet. They called it a fishing hamlet.
Uh-huh.
Which that just makes me think of Bloodborne. And now I'm like, is there some Lovecraftian stuff going on here? But that couldn't be.
No,
that's all fake.
That doesn't make sense. That's just fiction.
That's fiction.
Uh-huh.
That's fiction. So anyway,
Anyway.
Yeah, but it was nice because it was like, sure. And then I could get multiple things for the one person.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. It was easy and convenient because again, I'm bad at communicating with my own family.
Right.
And I feel bad for like not getting everybody something, and because what ends up happening is I only get something for my nephews. Mm-hmm. And then my sisters will get me something, or like people will get me something, but I never ask for anything.
Right.
But that's not the point of Christmas. Like mm-hmm. It's giving for the sake of it, mm-hmm. Not because somebody asked for something, but just because it's a nice thing to do.
Right, because I want you to have this thing.
So I guess what I'm saying is I'm a terrible person.
Yes, you and I are in the same boat, which is kind of hilarious that you and I are both very terrible at communicating with people that we are close to, like family. We are terrible communicators. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah, and we're sitting here with microphones in front of our faces, and
professional broadcasters.
Our day job is communicating with people.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's different. Well, and the other thing too is like I'm better at getting gifts for you than I am at getting gifts for my own family. Although it's like, I guess a spoiler, I haven't gotten you anything for Chuckmas just That's because fine. Nothing has occurred to me to get you.
Right.
But like
I know you go out the day of. It's fine.
Yeah. But like there have been times where like we'll exchange gifts and then I'm like, why can't I do? But that's because I see you 5 days. I see you 6 days out of the week.
Right.
So I I'm talking to you all the time. It's easier to know, I'm in more constant contact. I know some of the things that you need. I don't know. The holidays are complicated.
They are complicated and stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got asked about that. I said, why are you so stressed out lately? I said, Christmas.
It's true.
Yeah, it is true. Although this year at Christmas, because it's my ex-wife's year with the kids. Yes, thank you. All right, I'll get it back to you in good shape.
Don't forget to bring them with you when you leave.
Yes,
I handed him, by the way, my collection of extended edition Lord of the Rings Blu-rays.
Yes,
which he borrows on Christmas.
Yes,
and it's a good way to spend all of your waking hours in a day.
That's what it takes.
Yeah, that's about what it takes. It's about what it's like 15 hours, something like that.
15 or 16, somewhere.
Yeah. I was gonna say because each of them is about 3 with a theatrical cut. Mm-hmm. I think that I don't think any of them add much more than an hour. So it's probably between like 12 and 14, honestly. Because 3 times 4 would be 12.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's good. I'm gonna turn off my phone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lock my door. I'm gonna have lots of snacks.
Yeah.
Like just junk. I went to the chiropractor today, and I told him, I said, hey, I'm doing this. He says, okay, well, just make sure you get up and move between movies.
Yeah.
because I don't want to
move around a little bit.
I don't want the work I'm doing today to be for naught, you know?
That's a very considerate chiropractor, basically telling you, I don't want to have to see you again soon.
Yeah. I want to see you in a month, just like all the other times.
The normal amount of times.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it could be when you could be getting paid more by having bad backness.
Yeah, I just feel like that would be an evil chiropractor. Can you imagine?
There are some, they wouldn't willfully I can't see even a terrible person being like, yeah, what you should do is just slouch through the entire thing and just really fuck yourself up.
That would be awesome if there was like a fictional villain who's, doctor whatever, and
just give terrible advice.
Yeah, give terrible advice and wait, what is he a doctor in? Chiropractic? Really? Okay, that's twisted.
Hey.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how you end up like that guy who killed 4 people in Mandan. A few years ago. He was a chiropractor.
That's right. And he was from your hometown.
Yeah. Although it's weird because I guess that's where he was. I don't think of him as being from there. That's just where he was where he was living. Because no one that I know of knew him.
Sure.
As far as I'm aware, like I didn't recognize the name when that news story broke. I was like, who? I don't know who that is.
Right.
And Washburn's not a large town.
It is not.
It's 1,100 people. Not that I knew everyone in town, because I also didn't grow up in town.
Right. You grew up outside of town.
Yeah. I went to school there, but I grew up outside of town. So there are a lot of people that I just didn't know. If they weren't like my friends' parents, then I probably didn't know them.
Sure.
But yeah. That's one of those things about growing up in a town that small.
Yeah.
That it's left me with a pet peeve and a nitpick that I cannot get rid of.
Okay.
Which is in movies or TV when a place is described as a small town and it has a population over 20,000. I'm like, that's not a small town. No, that's not a small town. Like Twin Peaks. I love Twin Peaks. Yeah. I adore Twin Peaks. But they're talking like. You see it at the beginning of every single episode where like the whole vibe of Twin Peaks is supposed to be that wholesome small town where everybody knows everybody. And then at the beginning of every single episode, you see the sign with the population and it says like 54,000.
Right.
And it's like, that's not a small town. And for me, it's like, David Lynch, you should know that's not a small town. You're from fucking Montana.
Right.
Yeah, Twin Peaks does not. 50,000 is not a small town.
That's here. That's Minot is 50,000.
Yeah, it's a small town to people who grew up in fucking California.
Sure.
And I suppose maybe it's a small town for Washington where it takes place. Like, there may be not so many incredibly small towns as there are in like North Dakota and whatnot.
There actually are quite a lot of small towns in Washington.
Yeah, in the eastern part of the state.
Yeah. Not everything is well, I guess Spokane in the eastern part of the town, but
not everything's quite as metropolitan there, but
right as Seattle or
even
Tacoma.
So, like the number of towns with a population under 10,000, or at least the per capita, like the number of named towns on the map that have a population under 1,000 per capita or whatever the fuck, however you want to. Yeah, figure out however you want to juke that metric. I feel like is smaller than places like North Dakota or Wyoming, or
because it was fun recently. We went and played bingo in Carpio, North Dakota.
Oh, Carpio!
Oh, they're in Carpio. Carpio's a small enough town where the only service business for like food and drink and whatnot is a bar.
Yeah.
But we still let the kids in. It's fine.
Of course.
So it was a bar for like children playing bingo.
Bar. Well, the way that often works too is like, I guess it depends on the town. But in my experience, the way that often works is like they'll let the kids in, but only a couple nights a week.
Right. Exactly. That's what it was. A special night where kids can play bingo and everybody, when I walked in, because I don't hang out in Carpio very often.
Everybody looked at you.
Yeah. I got the side eye. Like,
who's this stranger?
Right.
Howdy, stranger. Ain't seen you in these parts before. What can I get you? I have a whiskey. I'm just blown in from out of town. I think be here long.
I think it ended up with like gizzards and beer.
Gizzards and gizzards.
Yeah,
I've never had gizzards.
You know, if you can get over what they are, they're actually a tender piece of chicken.
Well, I think the thing that bothers me about gizzards isn't the fact that it's like a non-standard cut of chicken. Yeah, it's the fact that I know what gizzards typically contain within them. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not grossed out by it. What I'm thinking of is, I'm going to bite a rock. Yeah. And I'm going to crack my teeth because I'm eating the part of the chicken where they put little rocks and pebbles in there to crush up their food.
Well, that's more the crop than the gizzard. The crop.
What's the difference between the crop and the gizzard?
I think... Did you think you'd be looking that up today?
No, I didn't. I was actually thinking about that earlier today.
Were you really?
I think it was because we mentioned King Giz in passing.
Right.
And then I was like, what's the difference between a crop? Because I know a crop is a thing. So I'm like, what's the difference between a crop and a gizzard?
Yeah, you don't need a crop.
Organ found in the digestive tract of some animals, including archosaurs, earthworms, gastropods.
I would love to eat an archosaur.
I mean, you've eaten birds.
I suppose, yeah.
And you've eaten crocodilians.
Yeah, that's true.
So you've eaten both the extant lineages of archosaur. Congratulations. You have unfortunately not eaten a non-avian dinosaur, so you haven't eaten all of the archosaurs.
Well, there's time yet.
Or a pteranodon.
A pteranodon.
Also, or pterosaur, I guess. A pteranodon is a more specific. Anyway, gizzards. Oh my God. Oh, she's
just using me to get on the table.
Zima jumped up onto OJ's leg.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you, sweetie.
It's been 4 years.
It's been
4 years since she jumped on me.
But she just wanted to jump up onto the table, as it would seem. But the fact that she could have just jumped straight up onto the table. Mm-hmm. The fact that she used you as a stepping stone, I feel like that's a big milestone.
This is a special day.
I mean, it's used, so the gizzard, specialized stomach constructed of thick muscular walls used for grinding up food, often aided by particles of stone or grit. Uh-huh. So it does contain those things, but what is a crop and what is the difference? Uh-huh. Crop, anatomy, part of an animal's throat, used for storage of food before digestion. But then it also says gizzard. The gizzard is an anatomical structure in vertebrate animals. So they might be two words for more or less the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know. It's not clear, and I don't think this is a worthy diversion.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Chicken Anatomy Podcast.
Welcome to Bird Anatomy Podcast. Here's our first guest, Brennan Lee Mulligan. Bird expert Brennan Lee Mulligan.
I love that episode of Game Changer where they kept fitting him
the bird facts.
Bird fed that
where they gave him extremely obscure.
Yeah. Whereas the other opponent, or his opponents were like giving things like a duck,
chicken, penguin,
flamingo.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if I've done anything lately.
Yeah.
I don't think I really have.
No.
Still playing the same video games that I was playing last time.
Me too.
I haven't gotten any. Still no computer, by the way. Still no news on the computer front. Mm-hmm. I did reacquire the tracking code
Nice.
I just went back through my emails and found it, and I was like, let's just put this into USPS tracking and see, and it hasn't changed since.
Where is it? Bismarck?
I don't know.
Oh,
still the last thing that I have actual information on is it leaving the warehouse on November 27th, almost a month ago.
Right.
That's the last piece of information.
It's being delivered by mule.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's probably just gone. It's probably. I don't think I'm like, okay, it is that time of year.
Yeah,
where it is within the realm of possibility that it could still arrive. Like, things might be that fucking delayed, but I doubt it. I really doubt that it would. Like if it was actually sitting, waiting to be processed in Bismarck, I feel like if it was ever going to get processed, it would have been by now.
Right.
If I'm ever going to get it, it's going to be in like 6 months.
You'll be in a nursing home. So it'll be
6 months from now. Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah. You got to take better care. I was just thinking somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
They'll deliver this antiquated piece of machinery.
Well, they're going to deliver it to the radio station. So,
oh, sure.
I guess if I'm in a nursing home, that bodes well for the radio industry.
That's true.
If they can still, I mean, they would just be delivering it to the address.
Sure.
There might just be a
different business.
Business.
I feel like 6 months is optimistic.
It might go back to being an insurance office.
Yeah.
Which that's what it was before.
It was actually two different
company
businesses.
bought it. Well, yeah, because it's a split level.
Right. It was crop insurance upstairs, and I can't remember what was downstairs.
An escort service.
Yes. An escort service.
An escort service.
That would be great.
With an office. An escort service with an office.
And a break room.
You don't see that a lot.
Yeah. And it was very confusing because it was called Handy Insurance. Upstairs. So which up or down? Where do I go?
It's not a brothel. It's an escort service office. We don't do anything here. It's just where we hang out.
Right, exactly.
While we're waiting for calls.
Mm-hmm.
Be a weird way to run that.
Yeah. It would be. Everybody's in a cubicle. They've got a laptop.
That's the future. That's the future I want, where sex work is indistinguishable from like office work.
Right.
Where like it's like the future, and like there's not brothels. There's just like you like go to an office or something, like you go to an office building and they're like, all right, we'll take you into one of the back rooms. I got a report to file.
Oh, so much paperwork.
So much fucking paperwork. Literally. That I'm tis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just there's a sitcom idea.
That'd be great.
The Office.
Yeah.
But at a brothel. Like take
or an escort service.
Take the formula of The Office and put it into the setting of like a brothel. And you could have it like, I mean, you could have it set so there's the Australian version. Because I believe prostitution is legal in Australia.
It is.
There's going to be a Dutch version, and then there's an American version that's of course set in Nevada. And there you go.
Yeah.
It's just The Office, but set in a brothel.
And oddly with Steve Carell.
Steve Carell is the pimp.
Yeah, he's back.
He's a pimp. Is that still the term that would be used if you are the male owner of a legal brothel? Are you called a pimp? Because if you're female, they say the madam.
Right. I feel like a pimp is something very specific.
Yeah.
I feel like if you just own like an actual brick and mortar business with escorts in it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I feel like you have to wear a paisley jacket and have shoes with goldfish in them. And,
sure.
And a sword cane. And
sure.
yeah. I feel like you're very specific. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Like if it's legal business and you're a man, but you're just like the boss of these people.
Sure. You're just some really awkward administrator.
Yeah. It's just like, you're the fucking CPA.
You're the CPA. You're the CFO.
I'm the CFO of this brothel.
Yeah.
I have no part in I just manage the finances and make sure the rent and the taxes are paid. I don't know.
Now I'm looking at your paperwork, and it looks like we've dispersed you for 2 DP sessions. And I just wanted to make sure that you're not double billing the. Oh, you know what, Candy? That's fine. Just you. I'm gonna go back to my office. Yeah, you're doing great work.
I know you moved recently. I need your new address for your W-2. If we could take care of that. Oh, you have a client in 5 minutes? Okay, well, just soon, please.
Yeah.
I got to take care of that. Tax season is coming up. Who is this pathetic man we have conjured up? Why does he have to be a loser? I don't know.
And oddly, he's talking to his wife.
I mean, hey, look, work is work.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, you want me to stop and get more rice-a-roni on the way home tonight?
He's getting more pathetic. Every line. He's getting sadder and sadder. All right. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Slowly We Rot by Obituary. How about that?
That sounds good. Yeah.
So if you're not aware, Obituary is an American death metal band from Tampa, Florida, that was founded. Originally, they were called Executioner with an E. And then they found out there was a different band called Executioner, so they changed their name to Executioner
with an X.
They just cut the E off. And then right before they released their debut album, they changed their name to Obituary. And this came out in 1989, which is early days of death metal. This is what year 3 death metal. What year was the Death EP and then that first Possessed album?
Seven Churches.
Was that 86?
85 or 86?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, something like that.
I want to say Scream Bloody Gore was 86.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, this is year 3 of death metal being a thing at all. So early days, and definitely a part of, as we discussed earlier in the episode, the Florida death metal scene, which has remained a big part of death metal's DNA for sure.
One thing I like about this album is that you can tell that they really hadn't set in stone what a death metal album should sound like.
Yeah. Well, I was reading about that. They were in standard tuning using Fender Stratocasters, which the gear is one of those things where I really don't know for metal, especially unless you are super picky about it. I feel like gear is one of those things that really does not matter as much as people think it does, because at least when it comes to the actual instrument, the actual guitar, where it's like, I don't think anyone is going to be able to tell the difference between
your BC Rich and
your BC Rich and a Strat. Like, it's all getting put through the same fucking pedals. It's the pedals and the amps that actually matter.
The electronics, and your method of play.
Yeah. Like
that's a big deal. Yeah.
The actual guitar, the tuning matters. The tuning for sure matters, but I don't think it's one of those things where I've watched so many videos about like can you play metal on this guitar, and the answer is always yeah,
of course you can.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a guitar, you can play metal on it. Can you plug it into an amp and some guitar pedals? Then yes, you can play metal on it.
I've always
does it have tuning pegs?
I've always been of the mind that if you you can compare it to scotch. Sure. I got this $10,000 bottle of scotch, and you're like,
does it really matter? Yeah.
No, you're not.
getting anything extra out of that.
You're not.
You can't taste the price tag.
No.
At least not at that massive that massive price point. Like up to a certain point, yes, more expensive liquor will probably taste better.
Sure, but at 10,000, yeah.
Like I think the limit, honestly, in my opinion, the limit of whether you will get any returns on an expensive bottle of alcohol, I think the limit is about $6.
Oh, wait.
$6. No, I think that the limit is like $100.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Everything past $100, I think, is interchangeable quality.
It's prestige, is all it is.
Yeah, it's really like. People do blind taste tests and stuff like there's when How to Drink did a blind bourbon taste test, and they had a little bit of Pappy Van Winkle, and they're like, this one's fine. Like there were other much cheaper bottles that they did that blind taste test for and thought tasted better than the most expensive bottle of bourbon
available. Yeah,
that is public, commonly I don't know about commonly available, but that is, available at all.
Right.
But that was a weird digression. But yeah, I don't think gear really matters, but in more ways than just the gear. Yeah, I think you have a very good point of like they didn't quite know what death metal really sounded like just yet.
Right.
I was like, it's been a while since we listened to. It's been probably like 4 years since we listened to the album after this.
Cause of Death.
Cause of Death. That was that. I thought that might have been. I think that was the second Death Metal December that we did. Maybe. But when we listened to Cause of Death, I don't quite remember the sound of it. But listening to this, I was like. I think the only real diction or the only real difference in the vocals that I can the vocals are extremely evocative of like early Chuck Schuldiner vocals.
Sure.
The difference is the level of diction, which is like the vocals are very slurry. Yeah. Is the way that's a weird. It's not that they use a lot of racial slurs, but it's rather that
it's like a slurry, like a meat slurry.
It's like a meat slurry.
Right.
Like you can't understand a fucking word that's said on this album because it's all like it's very tonguey.
When I got this, I thought he sounded like about 1/5 of all the Scooby-Doo monsters. That's what occurred to me.
Yeah.
John Tardy.
But otherwise, it is very much like in the style of like a lot of early death metal where things had not gotten to that more guttural, more growly sort of place yet.
Right.
And the general sort of screamed vocals were a bit higher in pitch. And I remembered a band I was trying to bring up last time or the time before of like one of the first bands that really had those guttural growly vocals. And I could not remember the name of the band. The band was Suffocation.
Oh, sure.
One of the first bands to bring in like really sort of deep guttural growly vocals. In their first album came out in 1991, I think.
Okay.
And then you have in a similar time period, maybe when did Cannibal Corpse get going?
Late 80s, actually.
Yeah, they were already
with Chris Barnes there.
Yeah, and there is definitely a difference in between the Chris Barnes era and the George Fisher era.
Yeah,
as far as and it is again kind of a difference of diction. I think George Fisher is generally a bit more intelligible than Chris Barnes sort of ever was. I mean, Chris Barnes is kind of the genesis of a lot of the a thing I hate when people talk about death metal is like, it's the Cookie Monster vocals. It sounds like Cookie. It's like, no, you're just talking about Chris Barnes.
Yeah.
That's just Chris Barnes.
Right.
There are other death metal vocalists that I'm sure sound like Cookie Monster, but
they're sounding like Chris Barnes.
Yeah. Because he was the original vocalist of the most popular death metal band.
Right. You never hear them say, he sounds like Big Bird. It's never a thing.
Or like Animal from the Muppets.
Oh my God, that would almost work.
Yeah, right. It would almost work. You can kind of do that.
Well, man.
what's the name of the band from the Muppets?
That would be Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem.
Yeah, what if Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem were a death metal band?
I would follow them like the Grateful Dead. Are you kidding? That was what my
idea for the next Muppet movie.
My buddy down in Bismarck, that was sort of on his wish list. If he could have had this for his 40th birthday when he turned 40, if somehow we can make it happen that the Electric Mayhem plays at his 40th birthday party, he said that would be my dream. Of course, possible. We just got tattoos.
That was an easier solution. Yeah. Definitely an early death metal sort of style in many different ways. But nonetheless enjoyable, I would say. This is still a very enjoyable album. It does, however, it did feel to me very sort of samey, kind of indistinguishable song to song. Like when it came time to like decide a favorite, it was like none of these stood out to me. They were all the same level of enjoyable classic death metal, but none of them made me go like, oh yeah, this is the best. This is fucking awesome. This is my favorite one. I was just like, yeah, this is just more like, enthusiastic early death metal. And now I'm thinking I ought to go back and re-listen to like Cause of Death and see how much more refined that was.
It's much more refined, believe it or not. Yeah.
Because this was that period, and also a band's very first album in this period. Like we're in the time period now where like bands can put out extremely put together first albums, and that's always been a possibility.
Sure,
there have always been bands that like their debut album like is very well produced and very put together,
but now we have the technology to make sure that happens.
It's easier than ever to do that, and easier than ever for like a member of the band to become genuinely very knowledgeable about music production. Taking online courses about sound engineering and that sort of thing is easier than it ever has been. So in combination with the technology, you can also have the skills.
Right. Some YouTube videos.
Next thing
videos. You know, you're an engineer.
Take a one of those masterclass courses.
Right.
With, I don't know.
I think actually Deadmau5 does.
He has one of those I think that's specifically for producing electronic music.
Right.
That which reminded me, by the way, I saw a clip of Deadmau5 in his studio. I don't know if he was like streaming or something like that, but there's a camera in his studio and he was just like fucking around with his insane amount of gear that he has there. But he was just like fucking around, and he was like fucking around on his keyboard, and he hit a couple of notes and it was like, oh wait, like clearly that was something. And then he the title sort of spoils it, but he keeps on going. He's like, this is something. And then the moment he realizes that he is just making Sandstorm again, he bursts out laughing. He's like, oh shit, I just made Sandstorm. And then it's like he cannot help himself. He starts playing the rest of the song before he stops after about 10 seconds and is like, all right, I got to get back to what I was doing. But it's just like it's Sandstorm is inevitable.
Sure.
Eventually someone would have come up with Darude's Sandstorm. But maybe take a masterclass music production course from. That'd be awesome if Kurt Ballou did like that would be awesome. Sound engineering masterclass. That would be.
We need to call him.
Like, hey Kurt, we got an idea for you.
You should do this.
Do a sound production, audio engineering masterclass. That would be neat. Specifically for like metal and hardcore. Here's the things that you need. Here's let's get going. I don't know. That'd be neat. What's your experience with this album, by the way?
I bought this on cassette in probably 1990.
You were a year late.
Yeah, well, I just moved back to the States in 1989. This was an era where if you didn't see it at the music store, or some weird guy from out of town didn't have a copy of it to play for you,
it slipped past you.
Yeah, you had no fucking idea that this is a thing that existed. We did not have the internet. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have any of those things. You just had
You had a rock, and everything was made of rocks.
We had paper magazines.
What are those? What's paper?
Paper was this thing made from trees.
Wow.
Yeah. And in magazines, they would put words and sometimes pictures.
Wow. That's crazy.
If you're wondering how they got a JPEG into a paper magazine.
How did they get a JPEG in the mag?
They had these very large. I see you have a printer here. They used to come way bigger.
Oh, that's what that is. I was wondering what that was.
It made a noise earlier.
It's just always been there. But anyway, so you got this in 1990.
I got this in 1990, and I think it kind of blew me away. It was just, this is great.
Death metal was new. Had you already listened to much death metal at all? Or
not a lot. Not a whole lot of death metal. I mean, at this point, like I said, I just moved back to Earth, and I just
from space.
And I'd listened to a lot of like thrash metal and regular metal, but death metal was sort of a new thing.
Yes,
that I was. I mean, it was a new thing in general, but it was really new to me. And I was, wow, this is great.
This is great.
I like this is heavier than like all the other stuff.
It's better than the other stuff that was not as heavy. That's what you sounded like when you were a total.
When I was 16,
when 16-year-old Oj was a complete meathead.
Oh, well, this is fucking heavy, dude. It's heavier than your mom.
This album slap. Yeah, I would agree. I think this album slaps for sure. I was not able to put together a comprehensive list of scores just because this is like I think their second album is probably much more historically regarded, probably as being a more important album in their discography, and so maybe there was a bit more review information available for that album. For this, there was, at least on the Wikipedia page, there was just the all music score, which was 4 out of 5, and then I did a quick Google, and it didn't seem like that was going to be very fertile ground for like publications taking or doing retroactive reviews that actually had scores.
Right.
Because like sometimes there will be albums that will have reviews, but it'll just be like a recommendation or like a basic sort of thing. And I'm like, no, I want numbers. I want numbers, see? I can't do that. So I'm not quite sure exactly how this album sort of went over or has gone over historically.
Well, the cassette made its way to Sam Goody and Minot, so
must have been good enough.
Right, it was good enough.
But also the field was pretty small. The genre was pretty vacant, so it was easy to be a big name at the time.
But also to very few people.
It was easier to be a big fish in that pond.
Right.
The pond hadn't grown in size.
One thing I love about the guitars on this, and then they kind of changed it a little bit for cause of death, is that I noticed that the guitar sound on this sounds like low gear dirt bike.
Low gear.
That's what it sounds like. Low gear motocross dirt bike.
Low gear dirt bike is my new sludge metal band.
All right, that's what the guitar sound. It's like, wow, it's like.
Yeah, I can see what I can see where you're coming from with that for sure. It's definitely like, I mean, the HM2 sound wouldn't become a thing until later.
Right. So that's not what this was.
That's not what this was. See that, like, it's hard for me to like, for some reason when I think early death metal, like guitar sound, that's what always pops into my head, but that's not that early.
No,
like the
late 90s.
The whole Stockholm sound didn't really take off until like the mid to late 90s.
Right.
I think like the earliest thing we've listened to was probably Oh God! Now I can't remember the name of
Entombed.
Entombed. There was an Entombed album that we listened to.
Left Hand Path.
Yeah, that's the one. It's they don't lean super, like, you can tell that there's an HM2 on those guitars, but they don't lean into it nearly as heavily as some other bands.
Right.
Like, especially if you listen to, I think, Bloodbath's first album, which is, would be in the mid 2000s by that point, but like Bloodbath's first album is almost unlistenable. Because it's just the HM2. Like, there's nothing else going on.
Have we talked about Bloodbath?
I don't think we have. I think there might be a very early episode of the podcast where it was talked about.
You and Jaron?
Yeah, but I don't think we have talked about a Bloodbath album. I haven't quite kept up with Bloodbath over the last few albums.
Right.
But I don't know what they're up to. I don't know how many, because it started off as like it was all members of Opeth doing a side project, but now I think it's maybe just like the guitarist, one of the guitarists from Opeth that is still doing that. I don't know. No, not Michael. No. I mean, Michael originally did the vocals, and then he decided he left because he was just like, this isn't quite my thing.
Right.
And then they had a different vocalist that was with them for a little bit. And then Michael came back to just do the vocals for one album because somebody had to.
Yeah.
Like they had a vocalist leave or something like that. And then since then, I think it's been Nick Holmes.
Really?
Yeah. Old man Nick has been doing the vocals for Bloodbath for a while.
I actually re-listened to their most recent album.
Which one is that? Obsidian or?
Yeah.
Or have they had a new Paradise Lost? I'm not sure if they've had a new one since then, but yeah, that album's great. I have that one.
Obsidian is great.
I love that. That album is fantastic. I'm sure, but that came out in like 2018, so I'm sure they've got something new since then. But
Paradise Lost. Excuse me. If so, I need to listen to it. Oh yeah, they do have a new album.
Paradise.
Icon 30.
Icon 30. Interesting. But that's beside the point. We were talking about Obituary.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your favorite song on this album?
You know what? The title cut is the one that always sticks out to me because it starts out with this really sexy riff.
Sexy.
You'll have to pull it up and listen to it again. It's just It's very... I mean, you can almost do a striptease to it.
It's a Kenny G on guitar.
Yeah. Kenny G playing the motocross.
Kenny G playing a motocross bike into a microphone. I wrote down Deadly Intentions.
Great song.
I don't know if I could specifically tell you why I wrote down Deadly Intentions. I was like, I was giving the album a second pass of like, okay, let's just like listen to a few seconds from each of these songs and see which riff I like the most. When I like go into the middle, when I bring the timeline to the middle of the song, what has a riff that I like, and I think that might have been how I made the choice.
And here's kind of a sad thing for me listening to this again, because I hadn't listened to it in a while. So I listened to it again, and I'm like, what song is that one riff that gets stuck in my head by Obituary? What is that fucking song? And then I realized that's not Obituary.
What band was that? Did you figure out what band it was?
Celtic Frost.
Is that the riff that like made you think like, oh, that's what album that I should bring next week?
No, it's not. It's just it jogged my memory once I said let's do that. But
thank you for not bringing Celtic Frost.
Well, on their next record they cover a Celtic Frost song.
That's true. I'm trying to remember. Was it Celtic Frost? I mean, I know I didn't like Celtic Frost, but I feel like there was another band that I hated even more than Celtic Frost.
Yeah, okay, and to be fair, at some point I'm gonna have to bring their prior album. I brought Into the Pandemonium. Yeah. That was probably not fair. I should have brought an earlier record, and then you would have gone, yeah, this is a little weird too, but this is enjoyable. Whereas Into the Pandemonium was a crapshoot for them. Which kind of worked out because it got loved by some people, and then their following album let's do another crapshoot, and then everybody was like, no, we're done. We're done with you.
We gave you the one shot.
Yeah, go back and do the other shit again, or we're not coming to your shows anymore.
I can't remember what the other band was that I disliked. What's the band with the guy? What's the band with the guy?
The guy with the nose.
The guy that mowed H.R. Giger's lawn.
That's Celtic Frost.
That's Celtic Frost? Oh, yeah. Who the fuck am I thinking of then? Oh, I think it's Cradle of Filth I'm thinking of. I think he brought a Cradle of Filth album that I was not fond of.
Yeah, probably.
That might have been it. But
I do remember you saying, not my thing.
Yeah, that may have been the case. Yeah. But what metal do you bestow upon... The word bestow really threw me off there.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
What metal do you bestow upon this album, like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca?
Well, I feel like it's not their best work, so I'm gonna give it a silver. But I do still love it dearly.
Okay, yeah, I'm giving it a silver as well. Mm-hmm. It's enjoyable. I liked it. It's good classic death metal, but nothing really grabbed hold of me and said, you're gonna love this.
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, it was good. It's fine. So next week, I was looking through all of the albums that we have talked about from Death for Chuckmas,
yes,
which is our yearly celebration of the music of Death, the music of Chuck Schuldiner. And we have talked about every album of theirs except Scream Bloody Gore and The Sound of Perseverance. So I decided, because I think it's more poetic for us to talk about their first album last, this year we are going to be talking about their last album, The Sound of Perseverance.
Awesome.
Which came out in 1997, I think.
Really?
Or 7 or 8, I think.
Holy crap. It's been that long since there's been a Death album.
It sort of leaned much more. I mean, they had been leaning in a progressive direction for a while at that point. Sound of Perseverance kind of starts to the mix starts to maybe be arguably more than 50%, starts becoming more progressive than it is death metal, but it is still an album by Death, and it is still very much a metal album. So we'll talk about The Sound of Perseverance by Death next week for Chuckmas.
So we're only going to do one more.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when
we'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, when we get there a year from now.
Yeah.
Until you hear from us next time, why don't you go ahead and follow us on social media, on Facebook, or the one formerly known as Twitter, and also go ahead and subscribe to our feed on whatever service you're you're using to listen to us right now. Do that. Do it. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kel.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.